concept of balance has been so misunderstood in style for so long that I'm so excited to do this video today. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Milen and I'm a personal stylist, and today we're discussing honoring versus balance and what balance really means. So we're going to discuss this topic today because I think so many people get confused about this, and there is a trend. Well, it's not even a trend. It's just very common to see people post videos about style to be like how to balance out your wide shoulders or how to balance out your apple shape, your pear shape, whatever it is. And I think it's been really misunderstood as to what that means. And we hear the word honoring, we hear the word harmonize, and that can be a little confusing too. And how those two even play together and how they could even exist in a system that is so about honoring, like how does balance fit into that? So I'm going to talk about all of this today, clear it up once and for all. And I really hope that by the end you truly understand it so that you can confidently know what I'm talking about when I bring up those terms. So first, let's just dive into the definitions of these two words, because not everybody sees it the same way. This is how I view it. This is how I would work with a client, or how I would approach it. When I'm talking about these two words, honor / harmonize or balance, in any of my videos, this is what I'm referring to. So it's going to give you a lot more clarity in terms of the context of why I use those words. Let's start with honoring, or sometimes known as harmonizing. Those two words can honestly be interchanged. And what it means is this is the foundation of what this entire system I use is about. It's about what, Kibbe really talked about, and my extended spectrum of body types is really focused in on this. It's truly, honestly, all about celebrating the things that make you you and unique. So every body type has these elements or these characteristics that define them, that put them into that category. Obviously, otherwise you would just be like everyone else. And there's a reason we name you that type. It's because of these characteristics. And these characteristics are sometimes deemed good, sometimes deemed bad by the larger population, depending on a trend. Like, they can come in and out of fashion, which is wild to me. But the point is to just strip all of that away and really focus in on, okay, these are my main elements. This is what makes me beautiful. And here's how I'm going to really honor it. And when you do that, it just looks better. It just always looks better. You look more confident, you look more in line with yourself, and you start to become that unique beauty that everybody kind of talks about, where there's just individuality in beauty that's so, I think, lacking nowadays with all the stuff happening where you're all looking the same. We don't want that here. That's not what this is about. It's always about focusing in on those unique elements and then celebrating them. So when you're harmonizing, when you're honoring, you're taking that element and you're kind of highlighting it in a way. You could think of it like that, but I like to think of it as celebrating, because that's really what it is. It's a beautiful element and it's unique to you, or it's part of you that you shouldn't shun. So it's never about changing it. It's never about trying to minimize it. It's never about trying to disguise it. It's always about celebrating. So the question then is, if we are focusing so much on harmony, on honoring, then why is there even a term balance in this system? Why would we ever need balance then if we're just focusing in on those harmonizing points or the things that make us beautiful? And I love this question because this is where it gets misunderstood, and we use that word balance a lot, and you see it on social media, and it is utilized in a way that really makes us feel bad about ourselves, or make us feel like we have something we need to change about our bodies to be loved, to be accepted, to be beautiful. And that is not it. That's not it. That's not what this is about. So first, let's talk about what the heck is balance in my system, Kibbe system, these types of systems at large, where they're really focusing in on the honoring and celebrating pieces of you. Balance is, think of it like a tool towards harmony, a tool towards honoring something. It's not to diminish or to hide. It's really just like a smaller, lowercase honoring in an effort to get the bigger picture of honor, of a bigger picture of celebrating. So, for example, a lot of times balance is used when we want to elevate or highlight those honoring elements even more than we were if we were just to honor them. I find balance happens a lot more in body types that have combinations of the yin and yang, or the spectrum. Not as pure types will have a little bit more balance to come into play, to really punch through the harmony to sing, for it to really showcase itself. So traditionally, we think of balance as something that will disguise, or like, put your eye over here, like ignore this, or let's change our body shape completely to appease a trend, or to appease what society has decided is beautiful today. And that's silly, and that's not what this is. This is really about picking your honoring points. Okay, let's say you've got 3 honoring points. And then we're gonna use some element of balance to just further bring up those 3 elements into the light. You could think of it like with color analysis, we use contrast levels to really harmonize with things. And then if the color we love, but it has a little less of that contrasting element, we balance it out with makeup. And then it just helps to bring that color and your face and everything forward again. That's all it is. Balance is not about changing the way you look to appease something else, or to appear a different body type. That would be a big disservice to you, and you're too beautiful for that. So let's take that off the table. That's not what's happening here. So balance in general will always assume that there is a mixture of opposing elements that you're here to kind of bring back to balance, so that the harmonizing elements can come back to their rightful place, center stage, beautiful. Like I said, there's a lot more balancing acts happening in body types that have a lot more of that mixture happening, so that we can find those little pieces of harmony, those little pieces of beauty that we really want to just flesh out, bring out fully. Okay, so what body types need more balance and what body types need more harmonizing? Technically speaking, all body types will need honoring and harmonizing always, because that's the whole point. But some may need a little bit more balancing to honor more, and some can use balance when they're going against their honoring systems. So again, balance is a tool to bring us back to harmony, not to change things completely. I really want to stress this. So pure types, like I said, have a little bit more of a leg up in terms of them really focusing more on the fact that they have more to harmonize because they're so pure. So there's a lot less elements that need balancing because they're not as opposing to the main harmonious honoring points. For example, that didn't make sense. Wait. Let's take dramatics. So we'll break it down by the pures. Starting with dramatics, they have their main harmonious, honoring points would be sharpness, bigger, larger bones, and height. That's their biggest thing. They have sharpness all throughout their body, their bones are large, and they've got generally height. More of a statuesque, more of a lengthening appeal. It can be in their arms, so on, so forth. There is vertical happening. So those 3 things are your main honoring points. Every piece of the pie, every time we talk about fabric, talk about shapes, talk about what kind of hemlines and so on, is always pointing us into the direction of those harmony points. So For height, right, we're gonna look at longer pieces. This means we are matching exactly what that honoring piece is. So if you are long, we're gonna match it, we're gonna honor it by adding long pieces. Simple as that. If you have larger bones, you wanna match it or honor it or harmonize with it by giving us larger pieces, because your bone structure, your bone type really demands it. It is a perfect match. Then lastly, your sharpness. So this is going to, again, need that harmonious, that honoring aspect. We do this by using stiffer fabrics that are sharp, that have sharp angles to them, thicker, heavier fabrics, because that all will harmonize with length, bone type, and your flesh type, and your sharpness, your overall sharpness. So that's how we're constantly harmonizing. Because they are so extreme on all those ends, there's not a lot of balance to be done to elevate those honoring points, those main characteristics of a dramatic. So you don't hear balance as much when it comes to them. However, if a dramatic wanted to wear something outside of those points, they're just gonna have to balance things out so that their honoring points are still in focus. So if they are going to do something short, they're gonna make sure that that is a very boxy short cut, so that the honoring point of sharpness is super elevated. So at least we've hit one of those honoring points. Now we've balanced it out because we've taken something that is not in their characteristics or isn't their main beauty. And we're still saying, just wait, I'm still beautiful, I'm still tall, I'm still sharp, and I'm still big boned. And that is still now going to look elegant because you've balanced out to help your honoring points of contact, not points of contact, but those pieces, those elements, those characteristics that do make you beautiful, we're still honoring them by balancing some things out. Now, the other pure one, romantic on the far other end, we'll go with that one because I'll talk about classics in a moment. Just wait. So yin, now a romantic, it's all rounded, it's very luscious, it's got lots of softness going on. Their height doesn't matter, so we're not even going to talk about it, really. Their height is not their main thing. Their main thing is that they have lots of round shapes, they're very curvy, and they tend to have very soft, beautiful flesh. Okay, so if those are the three main things, we're going to honor those things equally or as much as we can, because that's the whole point of the system. So we will honor it by making sure the waist is always shown. We're gonna honor it by using fabrics that cling, that drape, that really hug curves. We're gonna honor it by using soft fabrics on soft flesh. Those are all honoring techniques, right? It's just elevating those pieces so that we really look at them and we see, wow, that is what makes that person beautiful. Then, if they wanted to go against their honoring pieces, their main characteristics, we would have to bring a little bit of balance. So that's usually why when something isn't the right fabric for them or something feels a little too long and unconstructed, then maybe, okay, at least, the very least, let's put a really good focal point at the waist. It's not the best solution, but what it's gonna do is it's basically distracting you from the piece that is not honoring anymore, which is the wrong fabric, the wrong shape. And we are now bringing it back in. We're balancing it out so that, boom, back in harmony. That's all it is. So if you can start to see a little bit of a pattern going on with these things, with balance and harmony, that's kind of the formula in every body type. However, there's going to be maybe a few more things that we have to balance out to really pump up those characteristic points to harmonize. So as we move down the entire spectrum, right, we go to soft dramatics. Now, soft dramatics are super close to the pure dramatics, so they have a lot of those elements, but now we've added in a new one, which is roundness. And now it kind of takes over a little bit more of their sharpness. So in terms of like level of characteristics, their main one now is going to be height, big bones, and their roundness, their curviness, their lusciousness. Less so on their sharpness. Although it exists, we are going to have subtle, tiny little bits in there in their outfits. And so now a lot more balance comes into play because we're not going to go full out romantic. We need to balance out things so that we do bring out whatever elements they do have combined. So in this instance, we're going to bring a little bit of sharpness, a teeny tiny bit, because it exists. And by doing that, you're balancing things out so that the main things look even better. And that's their big bones, that's their curves, that's their lusciousness, that's their height, their statuesque element to it. The second thing would be the length, which is the same thing as the dramatics, right? We're not going to do super short things because height has now been a harmonious point, and so on. So there's a little less balancing happening because they just have quite a bit of pure elements of a yang. Then we move down to the natural family as a whole. And here it's going to be sort of the same instance. The purer you are in that category, a little less balance is necessary. So with flamboyant naturals, there is a lot less balancing happening because they are a lot more purely natural, so to speak, and they don't need to as much. Their height is very exaggerated. Their lengths are very exaggerated, like in their bones and things like that. Their width tends to be a bit more exaggerated. So when we're balancing, we are only doing it in service of those 3 points. So if we really had something that was tight here, we would have to find a balance somewhere to elevate it again. So if you had really tight shoulders, you're going to need to find unconstruction somewhere else to really help balance things out so that we don't lose those 3 main beautiful moments of that body type. For a natural, they are pretty pure. Obviously, they're just a pure natural, but they're very balanced. And what that means is there is lots of balance already present. So at this point, and I was very excited to talk about these, and it implies with the classics as well, they're pretty balanced people, very moderate. That's what that means. There isn't too much of one and too much of another in terms of the spectrum. Just a little bit on one side, maybe a little bit less on the other side. And there are certain characteristics that are a bit more exaggerated. So balance here then becomes a really big part because it actually acts like harmony or honoring at that point. If you're using more balance here in this body type, you're actually honoring the way this body type is shaped because technically speaking, it is a balanced shape to begin with. And that goes with the classics as well, the dramatic classics and the soft classics. You're just always going to have those different points of honoring that are different for those 3 body types. So for example, with naturals, it's going to be their bluntness and their width. So that's going to be their one element that they use balance to really, bring it out and really showcase it and shine it. And so it becomes this really beautiful honoring piece. With classics, it's going to be heavily into the balancing act because their bodies are super balanced generally with a teeny tiny bit of yang or a teeny tiny bit of yin. And so those yin and yang pieces are just like another characteristic that they use their balance to really elevate. Soft naturals, it's going to be all the same characteristics of a natural, but with more of that rounded element in there. So now they have to consider that piece when they are either balancing out an outfit or just purely going for the honoring system, which means that they're going to really make sure that their waist is there in a softer, a little bit more of a relaxed vibe, that they're not letting their width breathe. All of these elements are always honoring and balancing out to really, at the end of the day, showcase your beauty. Always. Now, when we get into the petites, which is our gamees and some of our romantics, we definitely now shift into a lot more balancing because of there's a bit more of like a subtlety there that we really need to balance out to elevate the little pieces. They're a little bit smaller and a little less grandiose. So we're using balance with gamees, for example, because they're such a mixture of this yin and yang in such a compact piece. We're going to use a lot more balance to not lose those really beautiful characteristics. And I kind of hinted at this in the vertical video I did a while back, so I'll link that somewhere. But essentially what I was saying in it is that because we've lost the bone structure to hold on to these pieces, we're going to do honoring in a very different way, and we're using a lot more balance to honor these teeny tiny bones, these shorter lengths, these more compact body shapes, and this constant mix of yin and yang going on. It's not as balanced as, like already balanced, I should say, as classics are. So although they're both using, like classics and gamees, for example, are both using balance to elevate their harmony points or their honoring points, they're doing it in a different way. Classics are already balanced, so they're just mimicking, they're actually honoring by being balanced all the time, meaning they make sure that their proportions are balanced, they make sure that things are not any extreme on the yin and yang, just subtle little pieces of it. That keeps them balanced all the time, and by doing so, they're just always actually in harmony or always in that honoring state. With gamees, we've fallen into kind of a little bit of a dip with the vertical line getting shortened, and then there's some extremities on the yin and yang side a little bit, like a mishmash. So now we're using our balance not in a way that it just mimics the randomness, a little bit, yes. And the more that we balance out the randomness of a gamine, the more in harmony we are, the more we're actually just honoring the fact that they are a little bit mixed in terms of yin and yang. So we're not trying to diminish. I really want that to be clear. For example, if you do have longer limbs as a gamine, but you are very short, so it can feel a little bit opposing elements like we talked about in the word balance, we're going to balance it out by honoring it. So what we're not going to do is completely discount the yin and yang mixture. We're going to kind of play into it. So it feels like balancing in a way, but really we're doing it in a service to honor. So a good example of that is if you have really long limbs, but you have shorter torso or you're shorter overall, you're going to kind of play into that a little bit by balancing out a little bit of those elements. So that's with the blocking, your color blocks or your outfit blocking. That's in an effort to balance out those extreme yin and yangs, but at the same time you're honoring the fact that there's this extreme and kind of weird mixture of yin and yang in such a compact body. So it seems like we're trying to make it into something else, but really we're not, because no other body type has those elements that make them unique and cute and beautiful. And so we're really just balancing out the yin and yang so that that becomes a point of honoring it. And again, with our flamboyant gamees and our soft gamees, there's going to be a little bit more yang and a little bit more yin on either side of those things. So you find ways to balance to then harmonize and honor those more yin and more yang elements to your body type. And then lastly, with theatrical romantics, it's very similar to what we saw with dramatics and soft dramatics, except all with the yin element and a teeny tiny bit of yang or sharpness or angularity, whatever you want to call it, in a theatrical romantic. They're going to use that to balance things out a little bit to further honor all their yin elements. So it really is a push and pull dance that balance does with honoring, but it's always, always in an effort to further honor what makes you beautiful. It is not, and I just want to point this out one more time so that it really sticks to everyone. It is not ever going to be about, here's how to make you look like you have an hourglass shape. Here's how to make you look thinner. Here's how to make you look less wide. No. What's funny though, I will say, is that the more you honor and use balance in an effort to honor, whatever you're trying to achieve kind of naturally happens anyways, because you're honoring what makes you beautiful. You're gonna look more beautiful. Simple as that, you guys. Now, I could do more videos on this topic because I know I rushed through each body type, but I really urge you to go through, now that you know what those words mean and how I use them, to go through the videos on each body type and when I use those certain words and how that now makes sense or not. Let me know down below if this kind of got somewhere for you. If you need a little bit more, we could do more videos. And let me know what your body type is, because I love to hear about it. If you're having any trouble figuring out your body type, your coloring, or your essences, I offer all those services and more. I also have 2 courses up, one for color analysis and one for body type. I'm just close to finishing my essence one, and then the style masterclass will be much faster. So those are coming out, I promise. I promise. But all those links are down below for you, and if you have any questions, please ask. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a beautiful, balanced, and honored day.